With the massive successes from numerous games in the RPG genre during the early 2000s, such as The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind and Deus Ex, a lot of video game developers looked to the genre for a possible route to glory. The year is 2004, Ankara, Turkey. Local game developers Ikisoft publicly revealed their intentions to create an action-oriented role-playing game after releasing development blogs alongside beta versions of their new title, known as Mountain Blade. As of 2005, a branch of Ikisoft became Taleworlds Entertainment, whom focused completely on the Mountain Blade series. After numerous years of bug fixing, optimizing and making the gameplay as fun as possible, the original Mountain Blade released to retailers on the 16th of September 2008 in North America, and 3 days later for Europe and numerous other audiences. It launched to a relatively positive response, with reviewers praising its complex and semi-realistic combat system and strength in character development, which is truly key for role-playing games. Many have also thoroughly commended its immensely vast modding community, which has kept the game fresh in between installments. Sadly, there was a repetitive nature in the quests and dialogue due to the way the mechanics and worlds were developed, often creating some confusion amongst players, which was also not aided by it having some fairly outdated graphics. But then again, visuals aren't everything. If they were, I'd probably still be playing DICE's Star Wars Battlefront. This was only the first stop of the Mountain Blade train, as Taleworlds Entertainment had plenty of plans for future iterations of the game. As soon as Mountain Blade originally released, the team took a short breather and then jumped right back into the grind with the intentions of improving the overall experience, taking on as much constructive criticism as they could. Nearly 2 years later, and they had something that would go down in history as one of the best PC RPG experiences to date, ready to ship. Simply expanding on the original with some nifty additions, Mountain Blade Warband introduced the world to Mountain Blade multiplayer. These multiplayer matches were pretty incredible, with balanced characters to pick from, along with allowing the user to play on a massive scale of up to 200 soldiers on the battlefield at once. Other small inclusions to Warband are the Sixth faction, being the Middle Eastern inspired Saranid Sultanate, a rearrangement of the overworld, and new political options, allowing for marriage and the influencing of other lords to take place. Releasing in March of 2010 to stellar reviews, with many claiming the multiplayer is worth your money alone, having this single player just as a bonus for when your internet connection is on the fritz, only really negatively being affected by the very similar gameplay and visuals to the original, with little to no difference bar a few altered animations and minor updates to textures. With the positive response from fans and critics alike, Taleworlds also expanded Warband's horizons with the inclusion of 2 DLC packs, Napoleonic Wars and Viking Conquest, released in mid-2012 and late 2014 respectively. Both received fair criticism. However, the Napoleon era based DLC has overall been thought of very highly by the fans, but it was Viking Conquest that would be the one to get a soft remaster in July of 2015 with the Reforged edition, promising to fix most of the issues with the original DLC. Viking Conquest and Napoleonic Wars may have been DLC for Warband, with mostly multiplayer expansion. However, there was a standalone expansion onto Warband as well, aimed more at the players who preferred the single-player experience before the multiplayer DLC were even conceived. The Henryk Sienkiewicz-inspired Mountain Blade with Fire and Sword released to PC users on the 4th of May 2011 worldwide. The game focuses its efforts to tell the tale of the Cossack War and the Deluge, strictly speaking just 17th century warfare surrounding Poland and its neighbours, however in a pseudo-fictional world. As the game is set during a much later period in history to its predecessors, Taleworlds included many post-medieval weapons to the player's arsenal, including pistols and grenades. This mechanic was later implemented into the aforementioned Napoleonic Wars DLC with the inclusion of even more slightly more modern weaponry. With Fire and Sword's reception wasn't quite as strong as Warband, receiving only mid to high scores across the board, with many claiming its low price tag on launch is worthy. However, the lack of innovation and occasional aiming problems with the new pistols and bows pushes many away from it. I should add that I personally love with Fire and Sword, so much so that I've played it the most out of all of the series. I bet it's the guns. Anyway, this obviously didn't put out the flame in Ankara, as they've since released those 2 Warband DLC along with a soft remaster of Warband itself to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in September of 2016. Receiving fairly mid-range scores with the lacking of mod support, DLC and almost no changes to update it to a modern audience holding it back. You may have noticed that I have not mentioned any direct sequels to the original and have been only referring to these games as expansions. That's because that's how Taleworlds are treating them. The series will continue to live on, hopefully for decades to come, However, the team is currently grafting away for a supposed 2017 release of Mount & Blade 2, Bannerlord. This sequel seems to be addressing almost all of the negative feedback that they have received over the years, with improved visuals, animations, and weapon design being implemented to improve the original gameplay, along with new weapons and siege machines, potentially bigger battles, and larger areas to explore to expand on the experience. Bannerlord certainly is a blessing, or at least what is promised of it. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if it'll actually release though. Despite many people's jokes about Bannerlord being in some form of development hell, the series certainly has been successful, whilst holding a cult following status, with a reported 6 million copies of the main game sold back in 2015. I can only assume this number has blown up already and will continue to do so once we get our hands on the next installment, and our next adventure in Calradia. That was the history of the Mount & Blade series from its humble beginnings to its potential lively future. If you have any suggestions on what series I should explore next, do tell me in the comment section below. My name is Andrew or Stalli111 and I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment and subscribe if you've not done so already. And I'll see you on my next video.